You've often heard us talk about what a lot of these CEOs really think about workers. Well, the Gurner Group founder, Tim Gurner, gave an interview. He was on this panel discussion, and he literally said out loud what many CEOs say privately. Now, he's out of Australia, but trust me, what he said, you've literally heard folks talk about in the United States and other places as well. Listen to this BS.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40–50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost.
Okay, I hope that y'all really, really capture what this dude just said. Okay, get ready to play this again because I really want y'all to listen to what this guy just said. And there are some critical phrases that I want you to hear because remember what he's saying. I remember Larry Summers, the former head of the White House Council of Economic Advisors under Obama. I remember he was saying the exact same thing in order to curb inflation in the United States. Watch and listen again.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40–50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
Okay. So this dude literally said, we need unemployment to go up 40–50%. Oh, these people need to suffer. We need to have pain. They need to know that how dare they? How dare these workers let the employers know they're lucky to have them? Were y'all really listening to what? I'm going to play this one more time because I need you to understand what this man is saying is literally what a lot of American CEOs are saying. Remember when Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina complained about the benefits, the unemployment benefits of workers, saying, oh, they're making this. Why should they go to work? He didn't say nothing about the low wages. He didn't say, well, damn, this ridiculous, they're making this. No, these people want the poor, the working poor, to basically be begging them, thanking them on their knees. Oh, thank you, Massa. Thank you for this job. Oh, my God. And then he complained about productivity. Oh, how it's gone down. Productivity has not gone down. After the video, I'm gonna play it again, I'm going to show you how productivity has gone up. Oh, I'm sorry, but not to the degree that they want. Watch and listen for a final time.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40, 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
We've got to bring pain to the economy. Now, he said productivity has gone down. No, it hasn't. Go to my iPad. Now, first of all, let me explain to you what I'm about to show you. This is from the Conference Board, which is the global nonprofit think tank and business membership organization. And so these are business people, okay? So understand the headline. Let me show you this here. It says global productivity growth set to disappoint again in 2023. So you might say, oh my goodness, productivity has been dropping. Well, actually it hasn't. When you read it, it says, according to the Conference Board Global Productivity Brief 2023, GDP, gross domestic product, per hour worked, a standard definition of labor productivity, is set to rise just plus 1.2% in 2023. That's a welcome improvement from 2022, which saw zero growth, but a far cry from the plus 3.8% surge recorded in 2020, or the 2.6% annual productivity growth average over the 2011 and 2019 span. Now watch this quote. While modest labor productivity growth is expected to return in 2023, the trend remains disappointing, posing serious long-term headwinds for the world economy. This is Klaus de Vries, senior economist at the Conference Board. Today's historically tight labor markets preview a future where aging demographics will increasingly constrain the growth of the labor supply. Okay, so let me unpack this, folks. What they're saying is, get your ass in there and work harder. What we need you to do is keep working your ass off, making us a lot more money. Oh, and by the way, we don't want to sit here and pay you wages. Now, when he talked about what people were going through when it came to COVID, here's the reality that actually happened during COVID. People all of a sudden saw, because remember, the norm was get up early, get in your car, take public transportation, go to work, eat there downtown, eat your lunch at your desk, stay late, come home, try to cook your dinner, then work with your kids and homework, whatever, see your spouse for an hour or so, go to sleep, and do this thing over again. Here's what COVID did. COVID showed people, why am I sitting in traffic an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to work, and then an hour and a half, 2 hours to get home? COVID showed people, wait a minute, how much money am I making? COVID also showed people, I can do a lot of this stuff, the wasted meetings, How many companies realize we didn't have to keep flying people around the country to be meeting with folks in person when, hell, we could use technology and meet with them? That was saving us money, but also saving them time because they were actually at home. People actually began to look at their quality of life. They began to say, wow, I really like being able to see my children. I really like being able to spend time with my family members. And so when we came, not out of COVID, but when we sort of came back to normal, people said, you know what? I'm not really down with that life that I previously had. So this whole great resignation, people were complaining about that. It is because people realized the game that was being played. They realized how much of their life they were losing by just working every single day, and companies weren't showing any appreciation. So today, the companies are now pissed. They're pissed because unemployment is low. They're pissed because they actually have to now compete for workers. They're pissed that they actually now have to pay more. Don't y'all remember the bar owners and the restaurant owners who were like, oh, damn, we now got to offer incentives. We now got to sit here and do more just to get people. Or how about the guys who paid their workers more than realized, oh, they didn't actually lose money or lose customers. They actually increased their revenue. What this CEO is publicly saying is, we are sick of y'all making demands of us. Can't we go back to how things were when all y'all did was just shut up and work? That's really what's at play here, Mustafa.
Oh, without a doubt. He sounds like he's from the aristocracy in the 1700s when Marie Antoinette told him, let them eat cake. In other words, you need to be humble and you need to take whatever is given to you. And it is a new day. Folks are no longer going to just accept that they're not being paid a fair wage. Folks are no longer going to give up their time, like you said, with their loved ones. And people demand more, as they should. And the last point is, I don't know what kind of economist he's ever been around, because anytime you have a 40 or 50%, increase, you would actually collapse economies. So I'm glad that people are standing up for their rights and saying we deserve better, and we are going to make sure that becomes a reality, or we'll go work for somebody else.
See, I had somebody in the chat, Niambi, say, well, Roland, he's right. We do need unemployment to go up in order to bring inflation down. That's actually a lie. Lawrence Summers, again, Harvard economist, he was running around saying the same thing, and Jon Stewart just eviscerated his ass. I'm gonna try to find that video. But here's the reality right here. Go to my iPad. Over the past year, inflation in the United States has tumbled from 9% all the way to 3%. Softening most of the price pressures that have gripped the nation for more than 2 years. Well, guess what, Niambi? Are you telling me that inflation went from 9% to 3%? Did unemployment go up? Nope, it kept going down.
Mhm. Well, look, I mean, this is not about any of that. This is about a CEO like Tim Gurner and others of his ilk being able to line their pockets with more and more money. And the way they do it is by nickel and diming their employees. And to Mustafa's point, people decided that actually you actually are rich because of our labor, not the other way around. I think, some of these people who are wealthy, some of them are born on third thinking they hit a triple. It's not you out here, prospecting or building these buildings or doing all of the sort of hard labor that makes you very wealthy. And I think it's really rich that a person like a Tim Gurner, who's almost a billionaire, talking about the pain that gets inflicted, because when Mustafa was referencing the 17th century, we know how that story ended. It did not end well for those very same elites who were very glib about people's poverty and people's desperation and people's pain. So I think we want to be very careful about suggesting that people need to hurt more, because there are all these other residual effects. One, the rich don't necessarily tend to fare very well in collapsing economies. Two, we see things like domestic violence and child abuse and other things go off. There are really detrimental things that happen when we see people have pain. And if we don't want to pay people fairly, and we don't think that people have a way to speak back to their employers and to say that we're not happy, then we're asking those very same people to revolt. And that is not a maybe, that's not a possibility. That's what happens when you see this kind of pain inflicted on such a large scale.
See, one of the things that we have seen, Larry, we have seen what actually used to be outlawed. I'm looking for this video from Robert Reich where he talks about this here. Stock buybacks used to be illegal, but that changed under Ronald Reagan. What these companies have done, they have, when they've gotten tax breaks, all the money that they made, they plowed that back into stock buybacks and only benefiting the shareholders, not the workers, not the people. See, this is what this guy's saying. We need you workers to shut up, be grateful, keep busting your ass, making us more money so we can do stock buybacks and reward the investors and not actually reward the people who are actually doing the work. That's really what he's saying here.
That's exactly what he's saying. And we talk about stock buybacks. I think we've seen in the last, 2 years or so, some of these companies, after they give all this money to stake, people to own stock, what they do is sometimes, in some cases, they fold, and then workers are left with nothing, virtually nothing. And so you're right, Roland, in terms of the comments he made. I think the other thing we all have to acknowledge is watching the video that he looks and sounds like a Disney villain, telling the peasants to keep quiet while he eats roasted chicken. But this is, as you said, Roland, is an attitude of a lot of these Fortune 500 CEOs. And Roland, the other thing in terms of his comments, research shows that the gap between what CEOs are making and what their employees are making has widened over the last several years, post-pandemic. So this idea that individuals who work at the company should work harder but not be paid more and shouldn't complain is ridiculous. And also it reflects what's wrong with various forms of capitalism. This idea of those who work or middle class or poor should work themselves to death while I enrich myself, lived comfortably, and then pass that wealth on to another generation.
And look, I mean, here's the reality, and that is the arrogance of this man, the sheer arrogance of this man. What it goes to show is we don't give a damn about y'all. Y'all should be kissing our feet. Y'all should be kissing our ass. And if we tell you to do something, you do it. That's really what he's saying. And what's ticking off a lot of these CEOs is that they're pissed that people have said, yeah, I'm good. I'll actually take another job and take less money that actually provides me a better quality of life. I mean, imagine this idea, and I've had this conversation with several friends of mine who've had fathers who worked every day, never missed a day, and they turned 65 or 67 and 68, and then finally retired, and then all of a sudden had different health issues, and they never lived. They died when they were 69 and 70. Who the hell wants to work hard every day, don't take days off, don't take vacation, and you retire and you live for a year or two or 3 or 4, but it's horrible because you got health issues and things along those lines. I think about my dad retiring early from railroad retirement, I guess, 12, 13 years ago. Okay, he's now 76. I can only imagine. First of all, they've done a lot of great things, my mom, a lot of great things in the last 12, 13 years. But imagine you still working and you 70, 72, 74, 75, like a whole bunch of our people. Mm-hmm. And this CEO is like, shut your ass up and get back out in that field. Mm-hmm. That's literally what he's saying. He sounds like a plantation owner, an overseer. And what he wants to do, Niambi, he wants to crack that whip and say, get y'all behinds out there and keep picking that cotton and making me money.
Well, I mean, this is also what happens when you live in a country with no real organized labor movement. I mean, we've moved, inch by inch toward basic worker protections. And then you go to certain states and you still have, right to work states where you can be fired without cause, all of these kinds of things. And I think, when we saw what happened, the protests in France a year or so ago when they were talking about moving up that retirement age, this is what that kind of stuff was about. Because if you die tomorrow, we know that employer will send maybe a nice little plan or a floral arrangement and have your job advertised the next day because it's business as usual. And I think people have recognized, like, I don't want to work forever, and I'm not going to kill myself for an employer that doesn't care about me. And all these people who are aspirationally wealthy, who think this type of capitalism is the way to go, are going to be sadly mistaken, because these kinds of people are very rare. Right? The Tim Gurners of the world who make this kind of money are very rare. And what must you do to make that kind of money? I mean, what he's telling you is you have to be casual about the harm that you inflict on other people while you essentially extort them for their labor for pennies on the dollar so that you can be wealthy. And if you can live with that, then that's good for you. But I think what people are saying is that most of us are not good with it. And workers are saying we are not going to be treated like less than human because we don't have the benefits of the money, of the time, of the investment, and all the other things that we know have helped create CEOs like this and others who aspire to be like them.
Folks, it is absolutely crazy. And again, that's what you're seeing and you're dealing with all across this country as we speak.